Rob Dauster here. I got Jeff Goodman with me.
Hell no.
John Fink.
Are we still live?
Field of 68 till I die.
I'm sorry, man. I blacked out.
Randolph Children.
DJ Khaled, you not a big DJ Khaled guy?
Hands thrown up and in.
Goodman needs to be fired all the time.
Josh Pastner. You're going to beat people straight up.
You know the deal.
They have no swag. They have no nothing.
Terrell McNeil.
From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors.
This is Field of 68 After Dark.
It is the Field of 68 After Dark, and after you have been watching Jeff Goodman and the elite tosser to breaks, Rob Dauster, carry you through the start of the college hoops offseason. There isn't one. I'm John Fanta, and we've got a three-man game, if you will, here ahead of the May 1st transfer portal entry deadline, which I think is the proper place to begin. Goodman shaking his head because, Jeff, not only is the whole transfer portal just a sea of chaos, but my favorite part about today was I was on the phone with Dauster this morning. He's asking, all our group chats are asking, so wait, May 1st, well, wait, what's the deadline then? 11:59 April 30th, 11:59 May 1st.
Here, I wish it was a week ago. The portal sucks. Kids are getting overpaid. Yes, some of them deserve some money. A lot of them do not deserve the money they're getting. Also, just a reminder, we were all applauding Villanova and their transfer haul last year, and they sucked. So it doesn't necessarily mean anything. So as you could tell, I'm in a great mood today, although I am in a good mood because the portal is going to close tomorrow. So I can't wait for, and I'm not waiting up for 11:59 for the portal to close, just so you know, Fanta. Like, I'm going to bed, or I'll be watching some show that my wife and I don't know what the show is. I forget the name of it that we're onto right now, but I will not be like checking the portal at 11:58 tomorrow night.
Fanta, don't let him lie to you. We know why he's actually in a great mood, right? You know why he's in a great mood? Because he skipped out on work today to go play pickleball to try to prove to his local club pro that he deserved a spot in the club because he thought his handicap was rated as too high. He wanted to prove that he was actually not a horrible pickleball player, just a bad pickleball player. That's why he's in a great mood. He spent the whole day playing pickleball.
No, my serve sucked. My serve sucked today. Actually, I'm miserable because my serve sucked, and I wanted to go out there and kick some ass, and I didn't. And now I realize, like, if I go up against Hummel, I'm probably going to lose to that big, lanky, washed up stiff.
You're just now realizing that? Every single other person on the planet has realized that for at least 2 years since you figured out what pickleball was, and you just finally put it together. Sounds like you covering the transfer portal this year as well.
Wow.
I hate it. Hate it all. I'm going on vacation. I don't care where I'm going. I'm going to a beach where I don't have to deal with the portal or you two knuckleheads.
Fayetteville's beautiful during the spring and summertime.
I don't think I'm welcome in Fayetteville.
Oh, come on. I think they would welcome you. They would. Mama Hogg and her family and everybody down there, you're welcome down there. Let's begin with Kentucky. Let's start with John Calipari's former stop, because over the last 36 hours, we have seen more developments come from Lexington. The latest coming on Tuesday morning, Brandon Garrison, after not taking a visit to Lexington, ends up in Lexington, the Oklahoma State transfer this past year, 6'11", 245 pounds. They also add in Andrew Carr, a Wake Forest transfer, who adds some size as well. This is in addition to Lamont Butler from San Diego State, to Amari Williams coming from Drexel, to Otego Away from Oklahoma. So, Rob Dauster, I ask you this question. What are your thoughts on Garrison, on Carr, and how Mark Pope is building out this team? What do you think they can be?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's rather awkward when you have a guy like a Brandon Garrison committing without taking a visit and making that commitment while Great Osobor is on his official visit to Kentucky. I wonder how that dynamic is when you're the coaching staff that is trying to recruit a kid while also taking a commitment from another kid who may or may not play the same position as the kid that you have currently on the official visit. The dynamics of these microwave visits and these microwave recruitments that you see from the transfer portal has been fun and awkward, and it's something that I feel like would be in an episode of a Larry David show at some point. But I do think it is worth noting that Mark Pope is putting together a roster where it feels like he's kind of building it around adding a bunch of, I think Otega Oweh and Lamont Butler are the ones that stand out the most to me, a bunch of grown men that are going to be elite defenders the second they step on campus, and starting with that and then finding the scoring and finding the talent and finding the shooting and finding the other pieces that he could put around those players as well. Kobe Brea is currently on his visit there, and it kind of seems like by process of elimination, Kentucky, unless someone else comes in, Kentucky seems like the last place that he has left of the 5 that he had listed. So maybe you add him a little bit of shooting as well. I like this core here. It feels like they're a little bit big man heavy. They probably got to add a couple more guards. I would love to see a veteran point guard here at some point, Goodman, on the roster anywhere for Kentucky, but I like the start of what he has put together. Mark Pope has put together in Lexington.
Yeah, I mean, it's solid. It's solid. Like their 3 bigs are a little bit different than one another. They complement each other. I think you've just got a solid 7-man roster at this point, but you need to bring in a couple other dudes if you can. And otherwise, you're going to be a good team, not a great team next year. And I think that's probably what you're going to see under Mark Pope, though. You're not going to see the Calipari high-end talent. You're going to see a bunch of it might kind of resemble a little bit of like a Tubby Smith type roster from years ago. Not pros littered up and down the roster. You might have a couple, but again, you win with veterans right now. You win with experience. You win with balance and depth. And I think that's probably what Mark Pope's trying to assemble here to be, good, but they're not going to be great.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note here, Fanta, that when you are Mark Pope and you're put in a situation where you have to add 13 players to your roster, right, where you have to literally build your roster from scratch in the span of 2 or 3 weeks, that you can't really be all that picky. If you find a guy like an Otega Oweh who averaged 15 points a game in the Big 12, if you find a guy like a Lamont Butler who is an elite defender that can play at the highest level, that has a winning pedigree, that hit a game-winning, buzzer-beating jump shot in the Final Four to send his team to the national title game, you take that kid. If you get someone like an Andrew Carr who averaged 13 points and 7 rebounds in the ACC, you take that kid. If you can get a former McDonald's All-American like Brandon Garrison, you take that kid. And then you figure it all out, and you try to be able to put together enough to be competitive your first year. And then hopefully you got some guys that are going to be there for 2, maybe 3 years. Hopefully you got some freshmen that you can kind of develop and coach up. Hopefully it will allow you to get some momentum in the recruiting market out of high school guys. So I don't think that you look at this first year, especially in this era where you got to add 13 guys, look at this first year and say, Mark Pope better be competing for SEC championships and Final Fours, or we got to get him out of there after year 1. No, man, he's fighting for scraps right now. He's got to add 13 guys in 4 weeks. That's not easy to do.
Yeah, but I think we would all agree, too, is that Kentucky fans have become used to making the massive splashes in an offseason or knowing that they have a number 1 recruiting class under John Calipari. They would trade that any day of the week for a more cohesive, experienced roster that's built to win and makes progress and then is playing its best basketball in the time of year that matters most, March. So you're kind of seeing a balance here, right, Jeff? You said it. Yeah, it might be closer to Tubby Smith, but by the same token, not year 1, but in the grand scheme of things, big picture, John Calipari was winning every type of recruiting battle that he needed to win. Kentucky fans would trade all that if it meant that they could get back to the Final Four. That's why we've ended up here in the first place.
Kentucky fans want it all. They do. They want it all. I mean, let's be honest. They want to be relevant in the regular season. And they want to win in the postseason. Obviously, I think if they had their pick, they'd probably take going to a Final Four over what they did in the regular season a year ago. I think you're going to get this roster to me. and they'll add a couple more pieces. But to me, this team this year looks more like they're going to be a fringe top 25 team and get in the tournament as a 6, 8 seed, something like that. And maybe they win a couple games in the NCAA tournament. But I think they'll feel better. They were just so checked out on John Calipari. They were so checked out on him over the last couple of years that it's like anything, right? Like whoever your guy is, like Steve Lutz is a great example at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State fans had no idea who he was when they hired him, but he's their guy now. And with Mark Pope, it's a higher level because he's their guy and he's one of them. So they are going to back him. They're going to give him money. They're going to expect things. But again, I don't think they're out of whack in their expectations in year one. I think it's get us to the second round, second weekend of the NCAA tournament, and we will be ecstatic.
Yeah, and real quick, and then we can get into John Calipari at Arkansas, because I do just want to say, Kentucky fans, everything that I heard from people that I know personally, from people online, from people in the comment section, from people on Twitter, is that they were tired of being a place that prioritized getting 19-year-olds to the NBA and celebrating the successes of those Kentucky alums at the next level while sacrificing the culture and the program, the development, and getting to know these guys and having players there for 2, 3, 4 years and being able to make runs in March. Well, you know what? If you want to be able to have that culture and guys there for 2, 3, 4 years, you got to be able to give it time. Patience. This is not a 1-year rebuild, right? You're developing a program, you're developing a culture, and you're got to be in it for the long haul and accept the idea that, hey, the starting point might just be being a 9 seed the first year. Second year, you're a 5 seed. Third year, a 3 seed. Year 4, you're making it to the Final Four, right? You got to be in it for the long haul if you're here with Mark Pope. That's all I want to say.
See, I don't think it's going to be that guy. I don't think you're going to have that type of progression anymore because, as I said with Villanova, like you may hit the portal right 1 year, and then the next year you got to revamp. And you know what? You're going to swing and miss because a lot of schools right now are just saying like, all right, I got 3 guys on the board. I'm just going to take like Brandon Garrison might be a good example right now for Kentucky. Great Osimor was there. He's boys, I think, with Amari Williams. They're fairly close. And they might be saying, Kentucky, you know what? If Brandon Garrison's ready, we're going to take a bird in the hand right now instead of
we saw that with the shooters. We saw that with the shooter, like the drop of the shooters, right? Like you had Rylan Griffin, Cade Tyson, and Kobe Brea, who were kind of like the same spot, the top 3 guys for that role in the portal, right? Kansas took Rylan Griffin. North Carolina took Cade Tyson. The Duke visit didn't happen for Kobe Brea. UConn only wanted one of Aiden Mahaney or Kobe Brea. They didn't want to have that stockpile of perimeter players. So now Kobe Brea kind of ends up at Kentucky, right? If that ends up, he's there right now, and it seems like a process of elimination. He'll probably going to end up there, right? Unless something else pops. So that's just kind of the way that it works with this portal stuff. And honestly, like I was telling someone this earlier, guys, that's the way that it works for recruiting freshmen as well, for the most part, right? It just, that happens over the course of like 4, 5, 6 months, as opposed to 4, 5, 6 days. See, everything is just kind of sped up when you get into the portal and the way that this is all working.
Yeah. I think the closing thought on Kentucky, Mark Pope knows how to coach. His BYU team was picked in the basement of the Big 12 this past year, and in year 1 in that league, they were tremendous. And the point is, when you're talking about Kentucky fans being ecstatic for a second weekend, well, why would they be ecstatic? Because they haven't tasted that. When they step on the NCAA tournament floor, they will have not tasted a Sweet 16 in 6 freaking years. That's a long time. That's like 16 years at another program. 6 years in Kentucky. Yeah. Let's turn to Arkansas briefly, Jeff. When you look at where Arkansas is, yeah, they've got a couple of freshmen in Carter Knox, now Boogie Fland, Billy Richmond committing to John Calipari, Jonas Adu from Tennessee, Big Z as well. Where are you at with John Calipari? And obviously, Arkansas has some more players that they're going to be at.
Yeah, I mean, I think they got 5 guys now. They'll probably add 5 more of significance, is my guess. And all 5 will be transfers, I would think. Maybe the back end, number 4 and 5 will be more role guys. I think you're going to see the next 3 guys pop for them that are going to be significant. And I think Johnell Davis will probably be one of them. I said that about a week ago, that they're the leader for Nelly. And I think he fits there. Now, the only thing I would say, and with somebody like Nelly Davis, okay, a year ago, if Nelly Davis goes in to the draft process and the portal, he's looking at a two-way of, let's say 500-600 grand. Well, he's also looking at a payday of about that same amount of money a year ago, because that's what the top guys in the portal were probably getting a year ago, around 500-600. Now you can double that. Now Nelly Davis is probably going to make in excess of 1.2, 1.3 million. That's what I'm told the offer is for Arkansas right now. So if you're Nelly Davis and you're looking at it and you're saying like, all right, I could go and maybe get a two-way at 500-600 grand, maybe, not guaranteed, or I can get a guaranteed 1.2 million from Arkansas. It's kind of a no-brainer right now, isn't it, guys?
Yeah, you go and you take the money. That's probably going to be the most money that he ever makes as a basketball player. And
I don't know about that. I still believe he can stick in the NBA and make some money.
Okay, fair enough. I'm not saying that won't happen, because I really like him, and I do think we talked about this the other day. And Fan, I would love your opinion on this. I think he is the only guy in the portal this year that you circle and say he's a guy that could change change your program in a year. Right? He's the only guy that I think you can bring in and you can circle him and you can say, yeah, he's going to be an All-American with the chance to be a first-team All-American that can put a team on his back and take him from being like good to win a league. Kind of a good. I think that he is that good of a player, and I think that is why he's going to be getting what he's going to be getting if that deal comes through for him and Arkansas. If that happens, I love the addition, and frankly, if you kind of anchor Jonas Adu and Nelly Davis with all of those freshmen and all that talent that they have, and then just bookend a couple of role-playing veterans that you can bring in and kind of be out there and do a job, someone that can make some shots, someone that can be switchable at the 4 spot. I really like what Cal's kind of putting together here as the framework of his team at Arkansas. And frankly, I think getting Nelly Davis would be the single biggest recruiting win in the transfer portal for anybody this year, and I don't think it's close. I think that's on the level, tell me if I'm crazy, I think that's on the level of Kansas getting Hunter Dickinson last year.
I like what I don't know if it's on that level, but I like your argument on making it, on Johnell Davis making a program a winning team by impacting winning to the degree that he can. Because when you look at the other top-rated transfers, just when you look at Umar Ballo, AJ Storr, Tucker DeVries, Great Osabor, Kadari Richmond now, Norchad Omir, they're not making the same winning type of impact that Johnell Davis has made on a program, Jeff.
Well, the only thing I'll say, yes, and you guys know how much I love Johnell Davis. I think going to Cal is the perfect place for him because Nelly is not the easiest dude to coach. He's not. And John Calipari has dealt with, some tougher dudes to coach. Like, that's what he's made a living on. That's what he's built his career on. So I think it's the perfect match for both Nelly Davis and John Calipari.
Quickly, Jeff, who are you more bullish on as a team? Like that you could just see. I know there's still things to be solved, but Kentucky or Arkansas here this upcoming year?
Oh boy, I don't know. I mean, again, they only have half their roster filled right now at Kentucky. So
I'll answer that one for you. I'll answer that one for you. Right now, the way things currently stand, I will take Arkansas because I'm buying the idea of having the best player on the floor, especially when that guy can be a point guard / lead guard for you. Whereas I just don't know what it's going to be for Kentucky. Kentucky long-term, I kind of like where they're situated right now versus where Cal is going to be situated with Arkansas. But, if he buys into just going out and getting the best player in the portal every single year, then, maybe that's what it's going to be. Maybe Arkansas is going to be the new Kentucky.
We've got a break. Hey, all I know is this. It's not set in stone that Arkansas and Kentucky meet twice in the SEC schedule. Please, SEC schedule makers, make 2 meetings happen. And if nothing else, make a game in Lexington happen, Southeastern Conference. TV will love it. We'll all love it. Up next, we have a big transfer portal entrant today that we'll talk about. His college career seemingly never ends. Plus, we'll go to UConn. What's happening in the basketball capital of the world? Are they reloading for a three-peat? And Mike Woodson, Indiana. What grade would we give the Hoosiers roster right now? This is the Field of 68 After Dark.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay boost or two from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark on this Tuesday night, April the 30th, 2024. John Fanta, Jeff Goodman, Rob Dauster with you. We continue talking transfer portal chaos. We go from Kentucky and Arkansas to Kentucky's rival in Louisville. And Pat Kelsey's Cardinals, they get another addition, an all Big Ten defensive player, an all Big Ten selection, averaged close to double figures this past year. Has been that type of guy. He knows how to make plays for others as well. He's a veteran. Chucky Hepburn is the latest addition for the Louisville Cardinals. So, Jeff Goodman, when you saw that Hepburn had committed to Louisville, what was your reaction, and what do you make of where Pat Kelsey's team stands right now?
You know, I think I feel similar about Louisville as I do about Kentucky right now. I do. I think almost identical. Like, they're both putting together good teams that aren't going to blow you away. But again, I mean, imagine from Kentucky, you're going from Cal still being good in the regular season, not having postseason success. At Louisville, you're flipping it from going from, honestly, the worst high major program probably the last couple of years. I mean, you could say, like, Kenny Payne is the worst high major head coaching hire I've seen in my covering this sport in 20 plus years, to now having a chance to go to the tournament this year. So I think what Kelsey has done is more impressive, certainly, than what Mark Pope has done in the short term, putting together a team that the pieces fit. And Hepburn was kind of the final, well, not the final key piece, because they still need to get a big. They still need a 5-man at this point. And Great Osabor's on the board. He's going to be visiting Louisville. He's coming from Kentucky, as Rob said. It's kind of a fake visit in Lexington for the most part. He can just hang with his family who's in from England. And now he can take a real visit to Louisville. Then he'll go to Texas Tech. Then he'll finish with Washington, his old coach, Danny Sprinkle. And if they don't get him, I think Norchad O'Meara is also maybe on the board as a possibility. So if they get one of those two guys, they're in business. They are absolutely in business. If they don't, I don't know if they're an NCAA tournament team.
See, I think that they are a tournament team, even if they don't get one of those two, because they'll add somebody, right? And they'll get someone that will be good enough to give them what they need to be able to make a trip to the tournament out of the ACC. I think Chucky Hepburn is really good. He's going to be an all ACC guard. Rain Smith is a shooter. Corin Johnson is a good piece. We know what Terrence Edwards is. He can be one of those versatile wings. I like Javon Hadley. I actually like the addition of Abubakar Traore. I think he's one of the better defenders that you can pull out of the portal. And your boy, James Scott. Goodman, your boy, James Scott. Don't forget about your boy, James Scott. And if they add Great Osabor, I do think that we're looking at a situation where this is like, I could squint my eyes and see a team that can make the second weekend with him added there. I think that the overall, I think this is the argument I would make. The overall talent level that Kelsey has brought in so far is not quite what the overall talent level that Kentucky is, or that Arkansas is, or that Indiana is. but I would make the argument that these pieces fit together about as well as you can.
Yes.
Like you can see how this is coming together. You could see what his plan was. You could see what he was thinking as he added each one of these guys, and just finish it off with a big guy. Finish it off with someone in the post. I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know if Great Osobor is like exactly what you would want out of big, because he's not a 5. He's not someone that's going to sit there and protect the rim and kind of do some of those other things, but you can run offense through him, and all of a sudden you have a really, you put him at the 5 with Terrence Edwards at the 4 and some of these shooters around Chucky Hepburn and Corin Johnson, and all of a sudden you have a team that's really, really difficult to guard.
Look, guys that average 18, 9, and 3 don't grow on trees, and Great Osobor is going to help whoever he ends up with. But I agree with you, Rob, because watching Terrence Edwards and even talking with him this past year when James Madison was on that run, that guy's a dog. Like, he's a winner. Obviously, goes into the NCAA tournament, beats Chucky Hepburn and Wisconsin. That's an interesting subplot to now these two players being on the same team. And Hepburn's a dog, too. He benefits winning. He makes defensive plays happen. And Rain Smith is a guy who, by Kelsey having him follow him to Louisville, Rain understands how to run a team, how to be in a locker room and be a leader. Like, this is a group that you're right. Like, maybe the talent on paper's not at the level of some of those others that you're saying totally. But, Jeff, I think this is the interesting part about this. Like, when you said Villanova crushed it in the portal, you could crush it in the portal. And you could even get pieces that come off as a fit. We're not going to know until things all come together. But when you're at the stature of these types of programs, of what Pat Kelsey's trying to build at Louisville, you've got to get dudes who are going to fit what you're trying to do in year one.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key, right? Like, and it's so hard right now because you talk to coaches and things are moving so fast for them, especially for somebody like Pope, because Calipari, it's a little bit easier, right? He's going from Kentucky to Arkansas. He's recruiting the same players. He brought a few guys with him. I actually love the fact that he only took 3 high school guys with him right now. You listen, here's what I'll say. I've said this for years, right? These former NBA guys suck for the most part that come over to college basketball. They're lazy. They stink. Well, now they have a chance. All you need is money. All you need is money, and you're going to put together a team that on paper looks good. Now, the question is, can you construct the right roster, and are you going to put in the time to coach them and develop them? And I actually think it's more important now on your staff to have development guys than ever, because the role of an assistant coach in the past was get me players, get me dudes. Now, honestly, if you got this, you're going to get dudes. So now it's find me a way to have an advantage with all these transfers, and find me guys who can develop these guys, who can get them to play together. That's not easy.
Yeah, I got a hot take. You just mentioned former NBA guys. I got a scalding hot take, Fanta. Are you ready for this?
Fire that we're going to the Big Ten. No.
Well, no, Indiana's going to be a top 10 team. We can go. We're in the Big Ten, baby. We are
Whoa!
there. They are going to be. They are going to be good,
top
man.
10.
Like I'm.
Luke Goody got you to put them in the top 10 of the country.
It's not just Luke Goody. It is.
Money.
I'm very high on Miles Rice. I love the combination of Miles Rice and Trey Galloway in the backcourt. I think that Cannon Carlisle is the kind of guy that you can bring in to be a scorer, maybe off the bench, maybe as a starter. There's enough guys around him that you can just kind of let him go, get a bucket, and not worry about anything else. And I think that's where he's at his best. I think the Luke Goody addition is really, really important as a shooter. My single biggest concern with Indiana is going to be whether or not Mike Woodson falls in love with the idea of having to play Umar Ballo and Malik Renaud together, right? If you can find a way, if you can find it in your heart, Woody, if you can find a way to be able to have those guys maybe alternate, maybe play them both 23 minutes a game. You got 3 minutes where both of them are on the floor at the same time. Let them swap out at the 5 spot and be able to get Mbako at the 4. Be able to take advantage of the fact that someone like a Bryson Tucker might be a mismatch guy. Be able to lean into this idea that, hey, you know what? You got some pretty good guards and some pretty good wings on this roster. And then buy into all that and put it together and go out there and play Big Ten basketball. I think they got a chance to be really, really good. there are still a lot of moving parts when it comes to some of the better players, especially in the portal, right? But you can't convince me right now that there are 10 teams on paper that have more talent than this Indiana team does right now. I think they're going to be really, really good.
Just imagine Dan Hurley coaching that roster. Imagine, like, that's our biggest worry. No, but it is. Let's be honest. No. Let's be honest, though. Let's be honest. The number one concern we have with Indiana is what? Not their talent, not their roster. It's Mike Woodson as a coach. And is he going to adapt? Like Rob said, is he going to get away from playing Ballo, Renew, and Mbako at the 3, 4, and 5? Like, that's going to be the big question, because he's got a lot of versatility with this roster. Does he utilize it?
Yeah, and I know what you're saying, and you're kind of leaning into what everybody has trolled you with for the last 8 months, but you're not wrong, because Hurley was able to create the best offensive team in college basketball with a lineup that had 2 guys that were complete non-shooters. You didn't have to guard Donovan Clingan at the 3-point line. You didn't have to guard Samson Johnson at the 3-point line. You didn't have to guard Steph Castle at the 3-point line, right? And they were the number one offense in college basketball because of the way that they were able to be creative and what they ran and all this other stuff. And if you can do that with you have more than enough ability and more than enough talent on this Indiana roster to do something similar if you can buy into the idea, hey, you know what? Playing Oumar Ballo for 23 minutes and letting him go balls to the wall, and Malik Reneau 23 minutes and letting him go balls to the wall, and giving them some minutes together, but mostly playing them separate and keeping them off the floor at the same time, then Indiana can be really good if they utilize this team the right way. The question is, will they? We'll see.
Take a page out of Dan Hurley's book. Don't use a tandem system in your front court. But don't play them all together. Don't play all that size together. Here's the thing, Jeff. How could he not have learned from this past season's transgressions? It was clear early in the season that Indiana's roster was poorly constructed. With the versatility that this roster has, hopefully some lessons learned. If you want to play to a certain identity, that's fine. But you can't tell me that you weren't a terrible shooting team this past season. The numbers don't lie. And now you should be able to have more shot making here. You should have the personnel. Like, if I'm Mike Woodson and I'm this staff, and I guess that's the next question, Jeff, then. From what you understand with Woodson's staff, is this a grouping that's just stuck to their ways, or is this the type of thing where he's willing to have the honest conversations and change? Because if he's not willing to change, he's not going to be the coach in Bloomington past this year if this ends up being disappointment.
I think, unfortunately, he is not one that has listened well to some of the assistant coaches that he should be listening to over the last year. Could that change? You hope so. I mean, you hope you learn from your mistakes a little bit. Obviously, they put a pretty good team together for him right now. Again, I don't know if they have still enough shooting. I would have went a little more overboard with perimeter shooting than they have. Like, Luke Goody is a really good shooter, but, is he going to play more than 15 minutes a game? We'll see. To me, their top 5 players are what right now? They're Ballo, Renew, Mbako, Miles Rice, and probably Carlisle. Those are your top 5 guys in terms of talent. You can make a case for Trey Galloway. That's fine. He can't really shoot the ball very well, right? Miles Rice shot it well for the good portion of last year. Carlisle was what? What was Carlisle? Low to mid 30s?
33%, yeah.
30, yeah.
Right. So you still haven't fully addressed the biggest need to me that hindered you last year, which is perimeter shooting. They're going to be better. They're not finishing in the 330 range next year, but you also don't want to finish in the 150 range. You want to go and flip this thing and go overboard with shooters, and they have not done that. So that still concerns me a little bit. Their talent level, their depth is better, all of it. Their payroll has afforded them to be able to do that, right? There's the haves and the have-nots. Indiana is a have right now. Bottom line is Mike Woodson and Penny Hardaway have a chance right now, even though I don't believe in the former NBA guy coaching in college. They got a shot now. Why? They got $4 or $5 million NIL payroll that allows them to outbid other people and get talent that, frankly, some of these other schools cannot get.
Must be nice when FedEx comes in and drops a massive bag, huh?
Yeah. Yep. That's not what brown can do for you, but I guess what orange and purple can do for you. Up next, we'll go the basketball capital of the world, Rob Dauster's favorite place. What's up at UConn? But after this break, something near and dear to our producer Trevor Valise's heart. A big name in the transfer portal that one analytics expert says would be number 2 in his rankings. That's next on After Dark.
It's time to talk about Vaulted. Vaulted is an app that allows you to store your predictions now and forever. It also allows you to challenge your friends to prove that your takes are, in fact, smarter than theirs. But what makes Vaulted great is that it allows you to keep all the receipts that you need to prove that your friends are not as smart as they think they are. With that in mind, let's roll through the 5 worst Vaulted predictions that were made on the field of 68 after dark this season. On November 6th, Jeff Goodman predicted that St. Mary's would make it back to the Final Four. They lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament. On November 29th, it was predicted that Arkansas would win the SEC. They finished 12th out of 14 teams. That prediction was made by Jeff Goodman. On December 28th, it was predicted that Memphis would make it to the Final Four. They did not make the NCAA tournament. That prediction was made by Jeff Goodman. On December 13th, it was predicted that Michigan State would win the Big Ten. They finished in 6th place. That prediction was made by Jeff Goodman. On December 29th, it was predicted that Miami would return to the Final Four this season. They finished 14th out of 15 teams in the ACC. That prediction was made by Jeff Goodman. So download the Vaulted app that's spelled VLTED from the App Store now and start keeping all of those receipts.
Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. Some major transfer news earlier today. Coleman Hawkins. It gets out that he is going to enter the transfer portal before the May 1st deadline, which is tomorrow. Hawkins, after 4 seasons, averaged 12, 6, and 3 assists per game, has been one of college basketball's more veteran, better presences when it comes to front court players. Now, he had posted a week ago to social media, guys, that he was 100% set on the 2024 NBA draft. Fighting for this program, the Illini, for the last 4 years has been an honor, but all good things must come to an end. As we all know, you could say you're committed anywhere right now. It doesn't matter until the deadline hits. We're seeing guys change their minds everywhere. But now Coleman Hawkins entering the transfer portal. Evan Maya says he would be the number 2 rated transfer in his current rankings. Kadari Richmond is 1. So, Jeff, we'll start with you here. What's your thought process with Coleman? You've had dialogue with Mr. Hawkins as well throughout his career. What are we thinking here?
Yeah, and I talked to him today a little bit here. And, you know, the thing with Coleman Hawkins is, and some of these kids, it's smart for them. If they're going through the draft process now, even though Coleman Hawkins is 100% in, throw your name in the portal. Throw your name in anyway, just to cover your ass at this point, right? Like Dylan Mitchell wanted to do that a year ago, and he didn't. And then he withdrew from the draft at the 11th hour, and he, according to my sources, wished that he had already put his name in the portal. So to me, if you're not sure, and even if you think you're 100% in going to the NBA draft, which Coleman does at this point, it may change when they say to him potentially, hey, you know what? You're, like I talked about with Nelly Davis, we got a 2-way for you at $500,000, or you know what? You know, his agent calls him and says, we got a 2-way, 550, 600, or you know what we got? You're like the last dude left in the portal right now. You can make $1.75 million going to School X because the supply and demand is such. Everybody else is committed for the most part, and you are the last big guy standing. So listen, this is smart business for Coleman Hawkins. I applaud him. Do it, cover your ass, and you know what? See what happens.
You are right. I mean, you are right. And that is part of, one of the things that I've heard about from people that don't like the way the portal is working and don't like the players getting paid is that the loyalty is gone. And you can feel the fact that it is a business with a lot of these guys that are leaving for more money, right? And I think part of the charm and part of the draw of college basketball for a lot of people is that the players that are playing love that name on the front of the jersey as much as the fans love the name on the front of that jersey. And the fact of the matter is, like, that's just not how it works in a day and age where you are able to make mid to high six figures, sometimes seven figures, to be able to play college basketball. And that's where we are right now. And if you want to live in a world where we are able to bring back players that can and probably should be playing professional basketball to keep them in the college ranks, I think it raises the level of the game. It raises the intrigue when you have guys like Hunter Dickinson coming back and Johnell Davis coming back and a Coleman Hawkins coming back, and these characters that people have gotten to know and love and hate at the college ranks. I think it's better for the sport overall. Now, it would be ideal if there was some way that incentivized Coleman Hawkins to come back to school and instead of going somewhere else, getting that bag and staying at Illinois, because Illinois fans feel a certain kind of way about him. But being able to keep these guys in and around the game, I think is good for the sport. It keeps people paying attention. And frankly, as somebody in the content business, it's good for content as well. And it kind of keeps people talking about college basketball right now, well into April and into May, when that used to not. So I get the criticisms, I get the benefits. It kind of is what it is. But if you have anybody else on the planet, right? Like, just, it doesn't matter who you are. Anybody else on the planet, if you had a chance to be able to say, if you do this one thing, you're going to be able to make $1 million more potentially than you would if you didn't do this one thing. Like, every single person on the planet would do that in a heartbeat. What are we even talking about here, man? It's a financial decision that has 2 commas involved. Do you know what I would do for $1 million? There's a lot of things that I would do for $1 million. A lot of things, Jeff, just to keep that in mind.
We're not gonna run down the list of things you've done for $0. So I guess we won't talk about the things that you would do for $1 million. Let's turn to UConn. So Liam McNeely, it's official. He signed his NLI, and the 5-star freshman is coming to stores. Danny Hurley gets McNeely, and on Monday afternoon, it was broken that Aiden Mahaney, the St. Mary's transfer, is also heading to stores for his 3rd season of college basketball. So, Jeff, what's this mean for the Huskies?
I don't know. I mean, it means nothing has changed in stores, I guess, that they've got another chance in year 3 that we don't know. Like, there might be a chance for a three-peat. Like, it's not out of the question. I guess that's the biggest headline I would have right now for UConn, is a three-peat is attainable with Dan Hurley. And if Dan Hurley wins 3 straight, he is going to be the most miserable human being ever to be around, ever. Like, I feel bad for Andrea Hurley. Having to deal with that ego if that dude wins 3 straight is going to be absolutely out of control. Like, think about it. He's never going to take out the trash again, ever. He's never going to do anything around the house. She's going to ask him for anything, and he's going to be like, look at my 3 rings. Like, it's going to – poor Andrea Hurley if this happens. That's who I feel.
There's absolutely zero chance there's zero possibility in my mind that Andrea Hurley doesn't run that household. So while I'll never be able to get him on the phone again. There's no doubt in my mind that he is going to have to he might have to do it 2 times a day if he wins that 3rd title, just so she can kind of, flex her muscles a little bit. I will say this, Fanta, I think it's really interesting. And I mentioned this the other day on Top Dogs, but I think it's really interesting that UConn kind of said thanks, but no thanks to Kobe Brea on his visit, right? I think they had an opportunity to get a commitment there, and he ended up going and visiting Kentucky. And I think that it says a lot about the way that staff values player development within their program, things that you talked about earlier, Jeff, when we had that earlier discussion. And I think that it's something where you can see a level of loyalty that he does have to guys that are already in that program. If Kobe Bryant commits, I don't know if you get Solo Ball back. I don't know if you get Jalen Stewart back. I don't know if you get Jaden Ross back. And I do think that it's something where it's clear that UConn values that within their program. We talked about this yesterday, Jeff, that you can kind of see like breakouts from different players every year that they've won the title, right? The last 2 years, whether it was Jordan Hawkins, whether it was Donovan Clingan, whether it was Tristan Newton, everybody kind of had their breakout year at some point. And I do think that being able to kind of build a program in a way where you can still rely on player development while supplementing the talent that you have in the portal and plug in the holes that you have is a really, really important thing to be able to do. And I don't think nobody is doing it better than UConn is right now. And I think that is the blueprint for what you want when it comes to being able to build a program that can be successful in the year of our Lord 2024 in college basketball.
So then, Rob, how would you compare that to a Kansas who has added Rylan Griffin?
I think to me, it's kind of stark to see what happened with the Kansas season last year and the injuries that they had when you kind of also think about how many people they lost in the portal in 2023, right? The number of guys that didn't come back for their sophomore or junior years, the number of players that left the program that had eligibility remaining. And I just, they ran into a situation where they didn't have depth. They were relying on freshmen that didn't really know what Bill Self wanted them to do. Injuries got the best of them in a year where UConn had injuries to their two guys that are projected as top 5 picks and still found a way to be able to play through that. And I think that it is important to be able to make sure that you maintain that element, right? Like that the way that those two programs kind of played out, they're the last 2 teams to win national titles, and you kind of see the way that they're trending. It just, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, Jeff, but I just kind of, that is very hard for me to not look at those two and draw a bunch of conclusions that I probably shouldn't be drawing.
Yeah, listen, what Hurley's done is remarkable. I mean, and if Bill Self did learn something this past year, he learned roster construction and depth and shooters. And Hurley's, again, the formula. Maybe he shared the formula with Bill Self. I don't know. I mean, if I were him, I wouldn't be sharing the formula with anybody. But I think Bill Self has a team now that you look at it, not only on paper, but when we see it on the court. That was the thing. A year ago, we looked at it on paper. We were like, all right, you know what? This is a really good team. They got an elite point guard. They got one of the best bigs. They got KJ Adams and McCullough. They'll figure it out. And Timberlake's going to make shots. Well, Timberlake didn't make shots. They had no depth. And, Terrier Morris was kicked off the team. Marco can't shoot. Well, now he's fixed it. You learn from your mistakes. And, I think both these teams are going to have a chance to win the national title, barring some sort of catastrophic injury. I think they're both going to be there at the end.
Yeah, I would, and we'll talk about preseason top 25 in a second, Fanta. There's no possible way that you can convince me that anybody other than Kansas should be the preseason number 1 team in college basketball right now. Maybe I'm just got my Bill Self blinders on. I'm literally wearing a shirt that says fog warning right now. So maybe I'm just sitting here as a guy that is completely biased, a completely biased media member that likes Bill Self in Kansas more than he likes the University of Kentucky or the University of Connecticut. The guy that just bleeds Jayhawk blue and has nothing to do with the UConn Huskies. But I mean, you give me DeJuan Harris, you give me Hunter Dickinson, you give me the guys that he added out of the portal, you give me Rylan Griffin as a shooter, and oh, by the way, KJ Adams is still maybe the most underrated player in all of college basketball. Like, what are we even talking about, man? They're loaded. They're loaded.
You can head to Field of 68 shop to get a cool shirt for yourself or one of your family members or friends. Check it out. Top 25. Where do we stand on a way too early? Plus, I'm going to challenge these guys to something fun that they don't even know about. That's next on After Dark.
Whether you are a world-class athlete or a podcaster like me, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. After a 6-month season loaded with cross-country travel, I can promise you that proper recovery is a priority for me these days. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this episode of the Field of 68. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or the EE system. If you haven't heard of the EE system yet, you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. Whether you're here in New Jersey or at one of the hundreds of other locations across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. If you're interested in experiencing the EE system technology for yourself, go to unifiedhealing.com/unified68 to learn more and find a center near you. That's UNIFYD healing.com/UNIFYD, the number 6, the number 8. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment, and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including the EE system.
Here we go. Way too early. Top 25 time on Field of 68 after dark. Of course, the deadline to enter your name in the transfer portal, whether you're undergrad or grad, is tomorrow, May the 1st. We're back with you on Thursday as well with the latest after dark. So we talked about going into the break. I think we all would agree that Kansas is the number 1 team in any way too early top 25 right now. But Jeff, how would you fill out maybe the rest of your top 3 to 5 teams in the country?
You know, it's going to change, but I think what we know is the Big 12 is going to be exceptionally strong. Okay, because
Yes.
you've got Kansas.
Be so dumb at the top, man. It's going to be
so ridiculous. So ridiculous. You know, Kansas at 1, and I don't think anybody's catching them. You know, you're going to have 2 more teams that are, to me, in the Big 12 in the top 5, and one's Iowa State. You know, they return their top 4 scorers. TJ Otzelberger's done a ridiculous job with the culture there. Lipsey's one of the best point guards in the country. Gilbert, they just – and they I think they added the right pieces in the portal. They didn't get a bunch of big names, but they got a bunch of like bigs that can just kind of help them, that understand their roles when they come in. Houston, you know, I don't want to say all they lose is Jamal Shed, because he was the best point guard in the country, in my opinion.
Oh, just the first team All-American, Goodman. That's it. That's all.
Right.
He's the best point guard. He should have won the Cousy Award. He should have won it. But no disrespect to Tristan Newton's awesome, but Jamal Shed, to me, was the better point guard. You know, and if he doesn't get hurt, who knows with Houston? I mean, let's face it.
You're right.
They're in the Final Four.
Here we go.
They're in the Final Four.
Is this going to be your new St. Mary's? If Jamal Shed doesn't get hurt, then UConn doesn't go back to back. Is that your new thing?
Yeah. So Alex, I'm gonna have next time I go to stores, I'm gonna bring a picture of Alex Dukas. And Jamal Shed.
God!
I'm gonna put him up in Dan Hurley's office. I'm gonna put him up. I might put him in the weirdo room. They might deserve to go in the weirdo room in Dan Hurley's house. Alex Dukas and Jamal Shed.
I do not think, for the record, you are definitely for the record, I don't think you're allowed privileges in the weirdo room.
No, that's
not true. That's not true. Dan said that we are allowed to do a podcast from the weirdo room this year. So I don't know if we want to take him up on it. I don't know if I want to be in the weirdo room, Goodman. I was
going to say, what you were not told is that Dan plans on locking you two in the room for 24 hours of solitary confinement.
Only one of you allowed to come out alive. You guys figure it out.
Look at the graphic.
My God.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, the Big 12 is going to be super strong with Kansas, with Houston, with Iowa State. Obviously, Arizona, if they get Caleb Love back going in the Big 12, they're going to be strong as well. So, that league, man, it's going to be high-powered at the top.
Rob?
Yes.
You're in the same boat?
Yes, it is. You didn't even mention Baylor yet, who's going to be a top 10 team. We didn't talk about Arizona yet, who, like, They're joining the Big 12, and they're going to be awesome again next year. It's just the level of talent at the top of that league, the level of coaching at the top of that league, the teams that can win national titles at the top of that league. Like, good luck, man. Just imagine if you're Johnny Dawkins and you got to sit here and you're looking at the schedule that you got to play this year, and you're like, how do you do that? Like, how do you deal with that? That's got to be one of those things that's just completely demoralizing, man. So, yes, the Big 12. The short version is the Big 12 is going to be absolutely loaded at the top. I have a hot take though. Okay.
Another one. How many hot takes can you have in a show?
I got a lot more too. If
hot take, that's all you're limited
to. Cliff Amore is on his visit to North Carolina right now.
Yes.
If North Carolina is able to secure a commitment from Cliff Amore, the Rutgers transfer, on his visit right now, I believe it's down to them and Alabama, right? If North Carolina is able to get his commitment, then I'm going to have a hard time not saying that they're the second best team in college basketball. They bring back the only first-team All-American that's returning in R.J. Davis. They bring back Harrison Ingram, who, again, is one of the most underrated glue guys in college basketball. They added Cade Tyson, who was a knockdown shooter at 6'7". Seth Trimble and Elliot Cadeau are good. They got a couple good freshmen coming in. The only thing they don't have right now, Jeff, what are they missing? They're missing a five-man. They're missing an anchor. And you know what Cliff Amore is? He's one of the best defensive five-men that you're going to find in college basketball. That team will be very, very, very – they might win a national title next year if they can get Cliff Amore. I think they're going to be that good.
Well, you're allowed one hot take because that's not a hot take. I mean, right now without Amore, I have North Carolina 3 in my way too early top 25. I've got Kansas
really?
1. Yeah, I do. I've got Kansas 1. I have UConn 2, and I know some people think I'm nuts, but okay, fine. You have them 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. I mean, I've got Carolina at 3. I've got Houston 4, Iowa State 5, Gonzaga is 6. Now, I'm going to round out the top 10. Let me know how you feel here. Alabama 7, Arizona 8, Duke 9, and Creighton was 10. They're not going to be moved out. I'm going to put Baylor in at 10.
I'd have Indiana top 10.
Yeah,
okay,
the only one I would probably say I would reserve judgment for right now is Arizona, just because, like, if they lose Caleb Love, and I can't believe I'm the one saying this, but they have a major hole. They have a major hole of, like, where do they get their scoring from? No, but it's true. It is true. Like if they had another dude ready, I would be like, I'm all in. But, like, they don't. I mean, Jaden Bradley is not going to be able to put up, 15, 17 points every night.
Sure.
So I think they're very dependent, where these other programs already have their questions answered for the most part, right? Like Mark Sears, I guess, with Alabama is the other one that I would worry about. If Alabama doesn't get Sears back, I'd probably have them outside of the top 10.
Yeah, and Alabama, again, is another team where – yeah, Alabama needs to get I'm still kind of on they need to get Cliff Amore in there, because right now they're kind of running it back the same way again without Nick Pringle, where there's just no way they're going to be a good defensive team where you're thinking about playing Grant Nelson at the 5 or Jaron Stevenson at the 5, right? They're going to score 187 points a game, but if they can put Cliff Amore there and they get him as their rim protector and their rebounder and a bunch of guys that are shooters and scorers and playmakers around him, then, like, all of a sudden we might have to have a conversation about whether or not I think Cliff Amore, wherever he goes, is going to make North Carolina or Alabama the one team that I would argue is we got to talk about them with Kansas as a preseason number 1, wherever Cliff Amore ends up, because both those teams have a huge hole at the 5 spot and could really use to add him. I got another hot take for you guys. This is going to be my third one coming up, right?
Here we go. You got 3 minutes. I got a special last call for you. Go.
All right. It'll be quick. If St. John's gets Norchad Omier and Kadari Richmond,
this isn't hot.
Well, where would you rank them if they can get Kadari Richmond and Norchad Omier playing in a Rick Pitino? Like, do you want to circle 2 guys that are perfect for Rick Pitino basketball? It's Kadari Richmond and Norchad Omier. With the 2 of them, where do you rank them? Like, they're probably top 15, right? You pull 2 and 3. Okay.
Top 20.
Yeah, like top 15, top 10. Like, they're going to be really damn good.
Go to BetMGM. and check out the future for the Johnnies right now. I think it's like plus 6,000. I'd sprinkle a little money there.
But Jeff,
because I do
Drop a Danny
Yes.
sprinkle on him.
yes, no, that could mean a couple different things. Jeff, if who knows what that meant in college when Sprinkle was in college? Yes, Jeff. If St. John's gets Kadari Richmond and North Chad-O'Meara, they should be a ranked team.
No,
they
like
should be
ranked
top
top
10ish. Top 10ish.
Yes.
That's a little
because
high.
you have your point guard big. You have your point guard big, and RJ Luis is a really good wing.
Okay.
Wilcher could take a step, right? I mean, you've got obviously Dunlap can shoot the shit out of it. I don't know if they have enough shooting. That's the one thing that worries me with this Johnny's team. Yeah.
Is this going to be your new thing? Like, remember how 2 years ago all we heard from Goodman was
point
guard play, point guard play, it's point guard play. You got to have point guards. If it's not enough point guard
And
play,
last I
point guard
checked,
play,
you need shooters.
Now,
You need
I don't
shooters,
think they have
man.
enough 3-point shooters. This guy only shot 38%. You need at least 6 guys that shoot better than 44%
All
for
right.
3. You got no chance.
Yeah, by the way, I would say top 20, and that's why I still question, it's a nice get with Aaron Scott. We'll see. All right, I got 45 seconds. Have you fellas heard the big news? Last call here, special edition. Dave & Buster's is going to allow you to wager on skee ball and Pop-A-Shot at their locations. I could bet you, I think $5, $10, not a lot. Yeah, you could play games now, and you can bet against each other that you'll win. So are you guys... who would win that if I faced off with you in Pop-A-Shot? I want to bet you $10 and I'm going to beat you.
There's no chance you guys. I have Pop-A-Shot in my basement. All right. I will light you guys up in Pop-A-Shot. What are we even talking about here? Ask T.O. what happened when someone challenged me in Pop-A-Shot. T.O. took the biggest L of his life. Okay. You're not touching me in Pop-A-Shot. I don't skee ball. You guys can have skee ball. Like that game makes no sense to me.
A Field of 68 Dave & Buster's outing now is going to have to happen here to see.
Dave & Buster's, drop that sponsorship bag. Let's go. Hey, come on. We'll do all our shows. We'll do every live show from the Dave & Buster's for the rest of our lives. Drop that sponsorship.
We'll go to Providence. There's a good Dave & Buster's in Providence, boys. So come on. Let's do it. I'll even put on some orange for you. I promise.
And there it is. That's how we will wrap up here ahead of your May 1 transfer portal deadline. We're back with you Thursday night for After Dark for Rob.